Life is anything but warm for Florida girl Kaisha Pugh, until she meets a man who becomes the sunshine she's been dreaming of.
Oh, she fell for him very hard. His looks and charm and his streetwise ways.
But when money runs low, Keisha winds up party to a fiery scheme that inevitably goes up in flames.
Oh my God!
They beat her, they put her on fire, and they left.
When two people get together and neither one have a regard for human life, well, that's a match made in hell.
And later, in Dayton, Ohio, after a series of run-ins with the law, Tonisha Harris turns over a new leaf to provide for her family.
She was working so hard. As a single parent, she really didn't have time for love.
That is, until a new man enters her life, and he asks her to help clean up his dirty deeds.
She fell to the ground and was dead almost immediately.
She had never gone this far, but he was willing to take her over the edge.
There are hundreds of thousands of women in prison at any given time in the U.S. These are the true stories of women who committed heinous crimes in the name of love. For my man. Growing up a child of the state in Pensacola, Florida, Kaisha Pugh has little contact with her parents.
She really didn't have a lot of guidance because her mother was not really there, so she really had a lot of disadvantages growing up.
They placed her into foster care. So she was kind of like lost, and she didn't know really what really happened until she felt like she did something wrong.
It's really easy for kids' abandonment issues to put them at risk for situations that are abusive.
In fact, the young girl's problems follow her all the way through her teen years.
She was required to attend an alternative school for those individuals with learning challenges.
Kaisha makes the most of it under the circumstances and tries to have as normal a high school life as possible.
She went to the prom, and she went to a couple dances. She graduated.
After she turns 18, the graduate departs foster care, and she reconnects with her mother.
She was very happy. She thought that this would be an opportunity where she could foster the relationship with her mother that she wanted, and even took it to the point where they moved in together.
I believe her mother had took some classes and stuff with parenting and had improved, and she started making better decisions for her when she returned home.
But the newfound stability doesn't keep her from getting into hot water.
Kaisha got involved in shoplifting, for which she was subsequently arrested.
Lucky for the first-time offender, the judge shows leniency. After being charged with petty theft, her case is dismissed when she successfully completes an anti-shoplifting course.
She was required to attend on-the-job training, which gave her the opportunity to develop some work skills to acclimate her to the workforce.
You're able to work part-time. She was at a thrift store, and she gained responsibility.
Her co-workers soon learn that Kaisha is very trusting and quick to follow anyone that shows her the slightest kindness, especially men.
I don't believe she had a lot of luck with men because she dated late, and I think that anyone that showed her attention, she fell for.
Kids who grow up without any strong emotional bonds often feel that they don't belong, and so they'll latch on to any person or any situation, no matter how appropriate or inappropriate, in order to be able to develop feelings of love and acceptance.
Over the next few years, Kaisha shifts from one relationship to the next and ends up having 3 children from different men.
And she didn't really have a lot of support.
And then she started losing more and more confidence, and then she just started drifting.
It's really important for anyone, but in this particular case, mothers, to feel focused, because if they go down the wrong path or they feel down, they start to develop very negative and destructive habits.
Try as she might, the cycle repeats itself when she falls on hard times and her children are taken away from her, just like when she went into the system years ago.
She would say, well, I don't want to be like my mama. She said, I want to have my kids. I want to raise my kids. I want to be with my kids.
It's a tough blow to Kaisha, so she starts to clean up her act by attending church, so it looks good for the courts.
And she wanted to get a job.
When she was on the road to try to get her life back together, she fought diligently to try to get her children back.
But all of her plans get put on hold when she meets 26-year-old Anthony Presley.
Anthony and Kaisha met at the bus station, and she was happy because she wasn't in a relationship.
Oh, she fell for him very hard. His looks and charm and his streetwise ways were something that she did not know how to handle. And based on the fact that she was looking for that type of attention and affection, especially from a man.
Some late bloomers, when they get involved in relationships, may tend to either not recognize or be in denial about the warning signs, most likely because they just don't have the proper experience to be in a healthy relationship.
Turns out, Anthony's rap sheet goes back 10 years, and Kaisha doesn't seem to mind his less than stellar past. Soon, rumors of attempts to dominate and humiliate her make the rounds among her family and friends.
Even going so far as demanding her to strip naked in front of his friends as an exercise of his control.
Go on, strip.
And then he was like, "You're nothing but a effing slut." She, was upset, and she cried, but he didn't care. And I'm like, it was just very disrespectful.
He didn't have no emotion feelings for her. And so that's the reason why he felt that she would do what he tell her to do.
Some women tend to see their guys or boyfriends' controlling behaviors as being loving behaviors, but in fact it's the opposite of that, in that they're treated as objects instead of people and are often mistreated in that kind of a process.
Even though he did the thing that he did, she still trusted him and she still loved him. Couldn't tell her anything different.
Despite his questionable behavior, the two become an item, and Anthony introduces her to his cousin Gregory Williams and Gregory's new girlfriend, Melinda McCormick.
Gregory and Melinda had only been together a few months, and all four of them would enjoy each other's company and go over Melinda's house and hang out from time to time.
As Gregory and Melinda get to know each other better, he learns about a dark chapter in her life that is finally turning around.
Not too long before this, Linda suffered a car accident and she was expecting a large sum of money on her Social Security card.
Soon after, Anthony listens intently as his cousin spills the beans and a dark plot brews.
Well, they intended to beat Melinda and take her property and money.
Anthony wants Kaisha's help, and he's willing to tell her just about anything to get it.
I think they had the plan set, but then added Kaisha in as an assistant and just told her that they were getting the money that they owed from the lady.
But she has no idea what she's about to do will start a firestorm that will burn through countless lives.
This was a brutal and heinous crime, and a callous individual who has no concern for anyone else.
She did pretty much anything for him.
Gregory, what are you doing? What are you doing?
In Pensacola, Florida, Kaisha Pugh finds herself in the middle of a disturbing plot cooked up by bad boy boyfriend Anthony Presley and his cousin Gregory Williams. Their mark? Gregory's unsuspecting girlfriend, Melinda McCormick, who's coming into a financial settlement.
Gregory was behind wanting to get the money, but since he knew so much about Melinda's life and where she hid the money and her routine.
Gregory informed Anthony as far as the layout of the house, the amount of money that he expected her to be receiving, where she normally keeps her credit cards and things of that nature, as well as her Social Security checks.
Kaisha agrees to help.
He would always tell her to do things and she would do it. So if he needed assistance, what right person will be there that's gonna do what you tell them to do?
They probably didn't even tell her that plan. They probably didn't let her know a lot of things. They just leaded her the way to go with them.
Just like some people can be blinded by greed, others can be blinded by love and not think clearly or know what it is that they really want. And that's why they'll go to very extreme measures in order to keep that relationship.
On the eve of Easter Sunday, the gang chooses their weapons in preparation for the impending attack.
The trio went to Gregory's mother's house where they armed themselves with a variety of blunt objects. Kaisha had a lead pipe, Anthony had a crowbar, and Gregory had an hammer.
Not only is she showing her devotion, but she's demonstrating that she's willing to just gamble away her future and her freedom.
Around midnight, they place the items in a duffel bag and head over to Melinda's. An unsuspecting Melinda has no idea what lies in wait outside her door.
She opened the door and let these friends in as usual. However, once she turned her back, Gregory pounced on her and began choking her out on the floor.
Next, Kaisha proves to Anthony just how down she is.
Kaisha stepped over her friend and began beating her in the head, prompting Melinda to cry out.
Relentless in their assault, the three take turns beating her, each with their respective tools.
The torture that she went through and the weapons that they used was very devastating.
Kaisha shows no restraint as she beats Melinda.
So therefore, if you're there, everybody participates, or else you're considered a weak link. So if she didn't participate and show that she was fully committed to this incident, she might have been the next victim herself.
She never been through that experience, you know, with somebody beating somebody. I think she was more scared and in a state of shock.
Melinda suffers over 40 blows to her head, but still holds on for dear life.
This was probably the most horrifying thing that a person can imagine, being beaten to death. Over and over again, blows raining down on your head until you lose consciousness and all hope of any survival.
Once she is subdued, the three ransack the house, looking high and low for her Social Security benefits card and anything else of value they can get their hands on.
During the beating, I believe that they were going around the house looking for the items, looking for the CDs, DVDs, and trying to find the Social Security card.
She wasn't alone as being a father and being scared. She was doing what her man asked her to do.
The card is nowhere to be found. So they make the hasty decision to burn the place down.
I guess they made a decision that they was gonna kill her.
After ransacking her apartment, Anthony directed Kaisha to burn the sheets while he went around and set the house on fire while Gregory watched.
Once they get to the point of no return, they know that they've got to go through the entire plan or risk getting caught. And if one goes down, then they all go down.
In a matter of minutes, the flames consume everything in their path.
As the fire raged throughout the house, Kaisha grabbed the duffel bag with all the items they had stolen from Melinda, and the three of them left to Anthony's mother's house.
They beat her and they put her on fire and they left.
Inside, Melinda still clings to life.
Melinda's battered and broken body was left on the floor to burn up while the house was consumed in flames around her.
And later, in Dayton, Ohio, single mother of three, Tanisha Harris, stands by her lover after he asks her to do the unthinkable.
There was blood everywhere, and she realized she had to clean it up, that it was a bloody mess.
Being the ride or die chick that she is, she immediately was going to come to the rescue of her man.
After Florida couple Kaisha Pugh and Anthony Presley set Melinda McCormick's Pensacola apartment ablaze in a botched robbery attempt with her in it, they frantically destroy evidence that can tie them to the fiery scene.
They went to Anthony's mother's house and burned their clothes, except for the 2 camouflage jackets that the men were wearing. They disposed their shoes in a dumpster around the corner and did all of this so that they could possibly avoid detection by the police.
Caught in the moment of the crime or the behavior, they may overlook details that may come back to haunt them later on.
Back at Melinda's, a neighbor smells smoke coming out of the apartment and calls 911. The Escambia Fire Department is the first to arrive and makes a horrifying discovery. Melinda's torment had not ended with her beating.
They found the apartment engulfed in flames, and they were able to find Melinda's body inside and were able to make a determination that she was not dead at the time the fire was started.
Her death is ruled a homicide as investigators swiftly try to identify her killer.
The apartment complex had surveillance footage which showed, prior to the time of the fire being started, 3 individuals walking to her apartment. The surveillance footage also showed 3 individuals leaving that apartment.
They had on big coat, and it looks like somebody was hiding something in the coat, and they was walking real fast out of the property and was looking back.
The police check with neighbors who give them valuable leads as to who the 3 perpetrators are.
Based on their frequent visits to the neighborhood, they were easily identified as being visitors to Melinda's apartment, which made them persons of interest.
Safe at home, the couple sifts through their spoils.
They were able to come up with a few items of value, DVDs, CDs, jewelry, and effects of that nature, but they were not able to find Melinda's Social Security benefits card, which was the goal of the operation.
Kaisha was led by her heart, and so things just went out of control when they didn't get what they were looking for. Now they have little or nothing to show for the murder that they committed.
The next day, detectives catch a lucky break when a friend of Melinda's comes forward with some information of his own.
Melinda's ex-boyfriend was able to identify the 3 of them.
Investigators obtain a search warrant for Anthony's mother's house, where he lives, and inside they find the 2 camo jackets similar to what the perpetrators were wearing on surveillance video.
The camouflage jackets that had DNA on it that matched Melinda, therefore tying them to the crime.
In addition to the camo jackets, police also find 2 of the perps, Anthony and Gregory, and they bring them to the station for questioning. Very quickly, they implicate Kaisha as the 3rd attacker.
Many people have their come-to-Jesus moment in the interrogation room, and all kind of secrets and stories are told to keep themselves out of trouble.
Later that day, Kaisha's arrested at her mother's house without incident.
She was very scared and crying, and they took her in. Whenever she did get arrested, she told the truth of how it happened.
The days of standing by her man are over once she sits down on the interrogation chair and starts spilling the beans.
She said that she was there, and she described the materials that they hit her with, and she gave them step by step of what happened from the beginning to end.
I think at that point she was more scared of police than she was of Anthony. And as a result, she knew that the only way that she could save her life and possibly escape the death penalty was to come clean and give Anthony up.
It's enough for investigators to charge the 3 collaborators with first-degree murder and first-degree robbery.
Once the pressure of the authorities came down on these 3, they cracked like eggs and sang like birds.
Kaisha sees no other way than to try to save herself. She takes a deal and pleads no contest to second-degree murder and arson. She tells the court that she was afraid Anthony and Gregory would kill her and her family if she did not help them.
It was a threat thing with her, and she was scared.
Based on her tumultuous relationship with Anthony, she really didn't have an out.
I believe that she was afraid of him and of what he would do to her if she didn't participate.
At sentencing, the court shows no mercy, and Kaisha receives 2 concurrent 30-year sentences. Anthony Presley pleads no contest to second-degree murder and arson and receives a total sentence of 60 years. Gregory Williams tries his luck with a jury, and they unanimously find him guilty of first-degree murder. His arson charges are dropped, and he receives a life sentence. Keisha's devotion to her man took from her the one thing she always wanted, a stable family.
Everyone deserves to be loved and be respected, especially the vulnerable people, most definitely.
I knew that Kaisha made a wrong decision, when she made that relationship with Anthony.
I think she wanted to be this ride-or-die chick, so I believe that's the reason why she went with the flow of things with him.
At the time that this offense was perpetrated, she didn't lose his love. It was already gone. Instead, it was replaced by control, fear-mongering, and greed.
Keisha Pugh was hoping her love and devotion would keep her close to her man, but that relationship only went up in flames. Next, Tanisha Harris tries to prove she's her man's main squeeze by getting her hands dirty for love. In Dayton, Ohio, A young Tanisha has always pushed the boundaries set by the grandmother who raised her.
Tanisha's grandmother was very protective of her, and they were Jehovah's Witness. So that meant there were restrictions on what she could wear, what she could do, and she really didn't have a life outside of that house.
And the older she gets, the harder it is to rein her in.
She began to rebel against the principles that her grandmother taught her.
Rebel against her religion and began to turn into the good girl gone bad.
By the time she's an adult, she transitions from breaking curfew to breaking the law.
When she was 22 years old, she had been in trouble for forgery. She was wanted by police for stealing a car and also illegally handling a firearm.
When children grow up in a very strict household and they get that taste of freedom, they sometimes just go buck wild because it's really new to them.
Bad behavior and several bad relationships later, Tanisha finds herself alone and the mother of 3 young children. Now a single mom, she focuses on supporting her brood any legal way she can.
Tanisha had only a high school diploma, which limited a lot of the jobs that she can get.
She was trying to turn her life around and become a better example for her 3 kids. She wanted to make sure they had a better future.
She was a cashier, she worked as a housekeeper, and even an icer at a local bakery.
Part of being a parent is learning how to put the needs of your children before your own needs. Some parents learn to do this in time, some it takes them a very long time, and there are some who just never learn that most valuable lesson of parenting.
With all her hard work, Tanisha's life seems to be getting back on track. But without a partner to share the burden, she finds herself increasingly lonely.
As any single parent, you're going to be busy, and when you have 3 children, that takes up all of your time pretty much.
So when 26-year-old Antoine Anderson enters the picture, she believes she can finally have her cake and eat it too.
The day she met Antoine, things changed for her. She saw a kindred spirit in him. She was quite smitten with this young man.
They soon learn that their similar experiences give them a special bond.
Antoine had an unsavory past. He had some run-ins with the law, but so did Tanisha.
He had actually been arrested about 6 times for a myriad of crimes, resulting in convictions for felonious assault and robbery. His past only draws them closer. Together, these former outlaws will kick their wild child pasts into high gear.
He called Tanisha in a frenzy and has the audacity to ask her to help clean up the crime scene.
She was gonna ride with him until the wheels fell off.
Dayton native Tanisha Harris and her new man, 26-year-old Antoine Anderson, bond over their criminal past.
They really wanted to work hard at building a great future together.
Opposites attract is not the only rule of thumb when it comes to love. As a matter of fact, statistics show that people who come from the same backgrounds actually do better in relationships.
Tanisha can't believe her luck when she learns that Antoine is not only handsome and charming, but likes children.
Most men would actually be scared of dating someone with multiple kids, but not Antoine.
Here's a guy who's flirtatious, who's giving her the attention she wants, and he's not bothered by the fact that she has 3 kids.
He actually relished the time that he spent with the kids. He began to take on a fatherly figure role with them and tried to spend every moment he could with Tanisha and her family.
The lonely mom has finally found a love she hopes will last forever.
Antoine seemed like a perfect catch. Her kids loved him, she loved him, and it seemed like this was the guy.
He gave her the one thing she always wanted, which was family.
But there's still one thing that he can't give her: fidelity. And she's okay with that.
Tanisha was working multiple jobs. She had 3 kids that she had to tend to. And Antoine took this as an opportunity to spend time in the bed with the side chick.
When a woman has been craving attention for some time, they're often blinded to the fact that the person they are attracted to is really bad news.
The fact that she was willing to share him with another woman showed you how desperate she was for love.
Like Tanisha, 25-year-old Nichelle McKnight also finds herself attracted to Antoine's charismatic charms.
When Tanisha was at work, Antoine would see Nichelle.
Nichelle was an Air Force reservist and single mom to a 4-year-old son named Zayden. He became a master at splitting his time between the two women.
Still, at the end of the day, Antoine would always come home to Tanisha.
She was willing to put up with his infidelity as long as she remained his number one.
When a man is involved in two relationships, quite often there is the main one, the one that we call in street vernacular, the main squeeze. And for Antoine, Tanisha was that person. That's the one who was not only primary, but the one he didn't want to lose.
And to keep his number one gal completely happy, Antoine gets an idea where they can both get something out of his extracurricular love life.
Nichelle had a pretty good income, and he started to capitalize off of it, to steal her bank accounts, to steal her credit cards, and to get all of that information so he could actually siphon through and get some money.
So one day, when she wasn't looking, he walked up to her purse and grabbed her debit card. Once he got the card, he immediately gave it to Tanisha.
Tanisha was not willing to push back because she was hard up for cash. She wanted money, and this was free money. And not only was it free, it was from his side chick.
The fact that Tanisha knew that she was the main squeeze and Nichelle had no clue that Tanisha was in the picture gave Tanisha a sense of power and yet another secret that she could share with Antoine.
She and Antoine go shopping at department stores throughout Dayton and also withdraw cash to shop to their heart's content. For 2 days, the couple lives the high life, but their free ride doesn't last long.
Nichelle started to notice that she didn't have as much money in her account. She called the bank several times and was trying to figure out what was going on.
She suspects her lover might have something to do with her dwindling funds and mentions it to him. Antoine plays dumb and denies knowing anything about it.
Nichelle pretty much dropped it. She was over it.
It's possible that she believed him, but most likely she just didn't want the confrontation and was just hoping that it would just play itself out and have perhaps some sort of a good resolve.
Nichelle claims to believe him, and the two make plans to do their laundry together later that evening, until Nichelle unexpectedly calls off the date.
They were texting, and she texted him back and said, never mind, she changed her mind.
Antoine allegedly becomes unhinged.
He became alarmed when she decides to abruptly change her plans.
Antoine got paranoid and thought that Nichelle suspected him and that she would go to the police.
Not wanting to take any chances on serving more time, he decides to take matters into his own hands.
Instead of telling Tanisha that he thinks they're about to get caught, Antoine actually decides to act very quickly.
Knowing Tanisha and the kids are out of town, Antoine invites Nichelle over to Tanisha's place, since Nichelle lives with her mother. Then, he puts the next part of his plan in motion. He texts Nichelle and insists that they spend the night together.
All right, see you in a bit.
Antoine drove to Nichelle's house and waited outside for her and her son to come out. He then drove them to Tanisha's house.
Police theorize that once they arrive, Antoine leads an unsuspecting Nichelle down to the basement.
Nichelle was thinking she was there to wash clothes. As Nichelle began to unload her laundry bag, that's when Antoine made his move.
Tonisha Harris's live-in lover, Antoine Anderson, has commandeered her house while she's away, so he can silence his mistress, Nichelle McKnight, after stealing and using her credit cards.
So Antoine picked up Nichelle and her son and brings them over to Tanisha's house.
Her back was turned to him as she was unloading the laundry.
According to theories of the crime, this is when Antoine takes the opportunity to silence Nichelle for good.
He shot her twice in the back of the head, and she was dead instantly.
No one knows for certain what happened to Nichelle's young son, Zayden. Forensic reports suggest he met a similar fate in Tanisha's basement.
We're not sure what Antoine's involvement was in Zayden's disappearance or death, but if he did do something, then I think this really speaks more than anything to this pathological type of personality, because the bottom line is, it was an innocent child, and he didn't have to include this child in such a ghastly, horrific crime.
Antoine then goes to work, getting rid of the evidence.
He threw Nichelle's body into some trash bags, hauled it into the trunk of Tanisha's car, and then drove to the banks of a river and dumped her body under the guise of night when no one could see.
At that point, we don't know where Zayden was or what happened to him.
When the deed is done, Antoine reaches out to the one woman he knows will stand by his side.
He called Tanisha in a frenzy. He told her what happened, and he asked her to help him get rid of some of the evidence.
What? He had the nerve to commit a murder in her house, and then the audacity to call her and ask her to clean it up. She was willing to take whatever Antoine would give her. He gave her the feeling of a family unit, and with that came murder.
In many ways, he may have felt in his very warped mind that that was the least that she could do, because ultimately he was protecting her, at least in his own mind, throughout the whole series of events.
Tanisha is stunned, but she knows her man needs her.
Even though she wasn't a stranger to crime, Tanisha had never been involved in anything as serious as murder before.
She had a big choice to make. Was she willing to take that next step to be involved in this crime?
Ever the devoted girlfriend, she agrees to clean up her man's mess.
Some women in this kind of a situation may see this as being their future, their everything, and therefore now they only care about this particular family unit that they're part of, and to hell with everyone else.
Tanisha rushes home with the kids, and while they're distracted elsewhere, she does exactly what he says.
Tanisha started cleaning up the crime scene, and she did her best to make sure there was no DNA evidence or any evidence that Nichelle had been there that night.
After she finished cleaning, she gathered all of the dirty rags and any leftover evidence and threw them in trash bags. She and Anton actually got in the car, threw them in the trunk, and he disposed of them in various locations around the Dayton area.
Once they believe they're in the clear, Tanisha and Antoine go about their lives as if nothing happened. But across town, Nichelle's mother grows concerned over the sudden absence of her daughter and grandson.
4 days after Nichelle and Zayden were last seen, Nichelle's mom filed a missing persons report with Dayton police.
Police start their investigation into the mother and son's strange disappearance.
Detectives looked at Nichelle's cell phone records and noticed that the last person she talked to was Antoine.
Nichelle's mother doesn't recognize the name, so police reach out to Antoine directly by phone. He is polite and cooperative and agrees to their request for an interview. But on the scheduled day, he has other plans.
The police asked him to come in for questioning, but he never showed up. And so he became a major person of interest.
So much so, they are more eager than ever to locate him.
The police teamed up with a fugitive apprehension team, and they began tracking Antoine's moves.
One day during their surveillance, they saw Antoine actually leaving Tanisha's house. So as he was pulling out of the driveway, they began to follow him.
But Antoine soon realizes he's being tailed.
They tried to pull him over. Instead, he kept going, didn't stop, and then he jumped out of the car.
He flees on foot and refuses to be cornered.
He ran into a wooded area, and he pulled out a gun.
Drop your weapon!
Dayton police have Antoine Anderson on the run after they attempt to bring him in for questioning, following the disappearance of Nichelle and Zayden McKnight after leaving his girlfriend Tanisha Harris's place.
The officers tried to pull him over. He kept going, but then he pulled over, jumped out of the car, and ran through a wooded area.
It turned into a real big standoff.
Realizing there's no way out, Antoine makes one last fateful decision.
He grabbed his gun and took his own life.
26-year-old Antoine Anderson is dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head.
He took the easy way out.
It's really difficult to explain why someone would commit suicide in a situation like this. Perhaps it's survival in a surreal level. Perhaps it's a level of desperation. Perhaps it's even cowardice. But this is something that we'll never have a clear answer to.
Tanisha is crushed by the news of Antoine's death.
When she found out Antoine took his own life, she was devastated. This was her love. This was the love of her life that she was willing to do anything for. And he no longer was with her.
All of the hopes and dreams she had about their future together were immediately dashed.
Surviving a loved one's suicide is difficult enough because you have the grieving process, you have no real answers as to why that person took their own lives. So the folks that are left behind are in shock, they're grieving, they're confused. But in this particular case, you're adding insult to injury in that he left her in a predicament, a criminal predicament, and she was now on her own. She had to work it out and figure it out by herself.
The only consolation is that authorities don't know about her involvement in the crime.
Police are still investigating what happened in Nichelle and Zayden McKnight's disappearance.
And it's only a matter of time before investigators connect the dots.
Police were able to see that her credit card had been stolen and used, and they were able to tie that back to Tanisha.
It's enough to arrest the single mom for some serious crimes.
Tanisha was charged in connection to Nichelle's credit card being stolen and being used.
Tanisha pleads no contest to 8 counts of theft. She's ordered to pay restitution back to the bank of almost $3,000, and she is sentenced to 10 months in prison. Tanisha's now where they can keep an eye on her, but investigators suspect she knows more.
With Antoine out of the picture, now Tanisha is the only suspect associated with Nichelle's disappearance.
She denies any involvement in the crime and is not charged. But with her recent plea, police have enough probable cause to search Tanisha's property, including the trunk of her car and basement. There, they find traces of blood consistent with the DNA profiles of both Nichelle and Zayden. And things go from bad to worse when Nichelle's body turns up several days later.
A passerby notices a body at the Stillwater River, and it is that of Nichelle McKnight. So this case quickly turns from a missing person incident to a homicide.
But neither she nor Antoine are officially charged with Nichelle's murder. Faced with the overwhelming evidence, Tanisha confesses to her role in helping clean up after the murder.
Her attorney claims that she was frightened of what could happen to her had she gone to the police and told.
Tanisha swears she has no idea what happened to little Zayden.
She's even offered to do a lie detector test.
To this day, Zayden's body has never been found. Neither Tanisha nor Antoine have been charged with a crime surrounding Zayden's disappearance. His case is still open.
There's a lot of unanswered questions still in this case, and things that we'll never know because Antoine isn't here to answer those questions. And the main question is, what happened to Zayden? Where is he? And that's what people want to know.
It's tough enough when a child is gone or missing or even killed. But when we don't know what happened to the child and that child is just thrown into the unknown, we don't have that closure, well, it makes it so much worse.
In connection with Nichelle's murder, Tanisha Harris is convicted of tampering with evidence, 2 counts of gross abuse to a corpse, and failure to report a crime. She is sentenced to 3 years in prison. Tanisha pinned her hopes and dreams for the future on a man who loved himself more than he loved her.
She protected him in a way. She helped to clean up the crime scene. She didn't report it to police.
Her biggest mistake was doing everything Antoine asked her to, from using somebody else's money to helping to commit a crime, to even sharing the relationship with another woman. There was nothing Tanisha was not willing to do for her man.
She tried her best to be a great example to her children, but she let love detract her from what was most important, and that was actually protecting her children.
Tennessee native Vanessa Claude finds a distraction from her uneventful life with a sexy younger guy.
Aldrich was there with her to try to comfort her and guide her a little bit, so I think she just needed that sense of self-security.
But when he enlists her help in an illicit scheme, she finds herself in the middle of a murderous night she'll never forget.
The plan was to go to Randy's home and to make it look like a robbery gone wrong.
Absolutely, she was going to protect him. I ain't the one that pulled the trigger, man.
And later, in Calumet, Illinois, Mary Ann Arnold finds true love right after high school.
They became new parents, they started living together, they grew up fast.
But when her relationship becomes one-sided,
What's to say here about you and Lois?
she'll move hell on earth to keep another woman at bay.
Lois starts pleading for her life, and at some point, she breaks away.
It was savage and shocking the way things went down.
There are hundreds of thousands of women in prison at any given time in the U.S. These are the true stories of women who committed heinous crimes in the name of love. For my man. Even though 25-year-old Vanessa Claude is old enough to be on her own, she chooses to live with her mom in her quaint hometown of Murfreesboro, Tennessee.
She was kind of trying to figure out her way in life, trying to figure out where she wanted to go.
Not everyone knows what they want to be when they grow up. It's really about trial and error. But if they're completely lost, then they can become at risk to a stronger personality.
But for the time being, Vanessa makes sure she doesn't miss out on love when she starts dating 21-year-old Aldrich Lillard.
She was young, and, he came along, he's tough-looking and built, hey, baby, how you doing? So I feel like she just got caught up in his charisma and his looks and his charm.
Aldrich also did time for a host of minor offenses.
It seemed like he kind of maybe lived on the edge a little bit, and I'm sure that was exciting to her, too.
When a young person is trying to find their place in the world, they can really be influenced strongly by the person they look up to.
Fresh off his latest stint at the county jail for burglary, he moves in with Vanessa at her mom's, where the open-door policy is especially sweet.
Aldrich had the company of a young lady, and he also didn't have to get a job. He had a free place to stay. He was hanging out, go out when you want to, do whatever you want to do.
With plenty of free time to spend together, neither of them seem compelled to change their situation anytime soon.
When two people get together unemployed, they now have a lack of direction 2 times over, and therefore they continue to be unemployed, and they don't know where they're going.
They had a house that was being paid for by somebody else, so they didn't have bills. They had somebody to feed them and take care of them and keep a roof over their head.
But after a month of playing house, Aldrich tells his girl he's got an idea on how to get them some cash.
Look, sweetheart, got a plan for us to get a lot of money.
The plan involves his buddy from prison, Darren Yeager.
Darren and Aldrich met in custody, met while they were in jail on unrelated charges to each other.
Before Aldrich's release, the two had multiple conversations about the man who Darren says landed him in the joint.
Because of a snitch named Randy.
A few months earlier, 49-year-old Randy Betts had let Darren crash at his place. But things turned ugly when Darren stole a knife from Randy's weapons collection and used it in a drug deal.
He's a real collector. He's got all kinds of knives and guns and every single thing you could think of.
And somebody was killed. Darren was a suspect on that. Randy figured out really quick what had happened, and as a result, he notified law enforcement.
They had him as a witness.
Randy not only gives Darren up to the police, but he's set to testify against the seething inmate in his upcoming trial, giving prosecutors a clear shot at convicting Darren.
One favor, he snitched on me, make sure he dies.
And the fewer people you have to testify against you, the better your chances of getting off.
Now, Vanessa is all ears as her boyfriend lets her in on how he plans to help his friend get out of jail and make it worth their while.
So Darren also let him know about the valuable guns that Randy had at home. The plan was to go to Randy's home and to rob him and to make it look like a robbery gone wrong and to kill him in the process.
With Randy gone, Darren will walk, and we can keep everything we get in the house.
It's a big job, and Aldrich tells his girl he wants her by his side as he executes the heist.
I'm sure Aldrich told her how much he needed her, and we need you to do this, need you to do that. And I would imagine he trusted her, and I would imagine there's a part of her that felt like that'd be something exciting to experience.
I can do this. I'm good.
Great.
Vanessa's response was to go along with it. They'd been spending an awful lot of time together, and she was just along for the ride.
When a person takes control, they become a leader in the situation. The person who follows them normally doesn't know any better, and they maybe engage in behaviors that are unhealthy or illegal.
To get the job done smoothly, Aldrich also enlists some extra muscle in the form of 27-year-old Ron Allen Hardy.
Ron Allen Hardy was an associate of Aldrich Lillard's. They were friends. They'd had a history already.
Before the trio embarks on the cold-blooded scheme, they need to figure out which hour of the day is best to catch their target by surprise. From what they know about Randy, he works a full-time job, keeps a routine schedule, and lives alone.
Randy was a family guy. He had 2 young adult children. He was divorced, and he normally kept to himself.
Chances are he'll be by himself late at night, making this the window of his doom. But they're not going to the home of a gun enthusiast unarmed. Equipped with a stolen gun, they set their deadly plan in motion. 5 days before Christmas, Vanessa drives Aldrich and Ron Allen to Randy's house.
I think she was excited because she was finally able to prove her love to Aldrich in a very tangible way, but she was probably also afraid and fearful for what was about to happen.
If someone is in love, chances are they may follow that other person blindly, even if they end up in a really bad situation.
With 12 miles behind them, they arrive at their destination, a quiet neighborhood in the small Tennessee town of Smyrna.
Aldrich and Ron Allen got out of the car while Vanessa stayed inside the car.
The two walk past numerous holiday illuminations until they reach Randy's front door. Inside, Randy is awakened.
Randy Betts was not somebody that was a timid man. He wouldn't have been scared to answer the door if it was a complete stranger.
Vanessa watches from the car as Randy comes face to face with the man sent to kill him.
She never should have agreed to go with Ron Allen at all.
When Randy opened the door, Aldrich immediately fired a shot.
It's 5 days before Christmas when Vanessa Claude waits in the getaway car as her boyfriend takes action against the man he's set to kill.
After Randy opened the door, immediately a shot went off.
Randy manages to dodge the projectile, sending the bullet through the couch. But a moment later, the partners in crime take another shot at point-blank range.
Second round caught him in the neck. He fell immediately right there in the doorway.
As Randy bleeds to death, not a soul around realizes the horror going on in the neighborhood.
No one heard a thing, and so no one called 911.
And we're talking about a 9mm. We're not talking about multiple shotgun blasts that's going to wind up waking the neighborhood. Somebody can dismiss it as kids with fireworks. Somebody can dismiss it as car backfiring.
For the killers, the night is far from over. Vanessa pulls up close to the house as her man and Ron Allen put the second phase of their plan in action and go after what they came for.
They went through all the drawers, dumped stuff out. Everything had been rifled through. The majority of the guns were stolen.
Tensions run high as they carry several loads of loot over Randy's body and into the waiting vehicle.
The house was in complete disarray. It was utterly ransacked, and they made away with guns and credit cards.
Adrenaline is always the driver in really bad situations, situations where someone may feel in danger, and situations that may be absolutely shocking. Cognition goes out the window. It's all about impulse.
Vanessa takes her place in the driver's seat as they flee the area, with no one on their tail.
Right after the murder, they went back to Vanessa's house and they unloaded the guns into the house.
Then, Ron Allen gets his share of the guns to sell before taking off. 12 hours later, the couple wakes up with more money at their disposal than they're used to.
So this led them on a mini shopping spree. They gassed up the car with the cards, and then they headed to the mall.
Meanwhile, Randy's body still lies untouched.
When you have a loss of life, I mean, that's just the most glaring thing. A man lost his life because he had valuable property and he assisted law enforcement.
These three individuals took away a father. I know Christmas will never ever be the same for them ever again. I know the holidays will be a tough time. These individuals have made life horrible for a lot of people.
The following day, his 19-year-old daughter shows up at the front door with a gift for her dad.
She had trouble opening the door because she didn't realize his body was laying right behind the door.
Finally, she's able to wedge the door open just enough to enter into the most horrific moment of her life. Her father laying lifeless, eyes wide open, in a pool of drying blood.
She was in such a hysteria, she dropped her keys on the sidewalk when she found her father dead.
In a panic, she runs next door for help. Minutes later, first responders are followed by crime scene investigators.
We realized as soon as we went in the door, no forced entry, we were able to start formulating what our theory was and what kind of situation we had.
First thing they see, obviously, is the location of where Randy was found, indicating he was shot right at the door, which was really one of the big keys to them to let them know that, we're dealing with a true homicide.
As the homicide investigation ignites, 13 miles away in Antioch, Vanessa and Aldrich are already reaping the benefits of the stolen credit cards. But every swipe of the blood money is leaving breadcrumbs behind for authorities.
They purchased gas, and then they went to a mall, and they began purchasing items. A clerk there noticed the fact that this was a young woman who's using a man's credit card. He questioned her about it.
Is this your card?
Oh, no, it's my dad's card.
Okay.
And the clerk decided, well, I'm going to go ahead and make sure to get some ID from you, and he did. She showed the ID, and he penciled that in on the paperwork.
And so they paid for their merchandise as quickly as possible, and they got out of there.
When someone puts their name on the line, it means that they have complete tunnel vision trying to make someone else happy. Their needs now become irrelevant, and it's all about that other person.
Later that same day, an unexpected source gets a hot lead on Randy's killers.
My son got information from the bank that the credit card purchase had been made and immediately called the detective. And then he alerted me and we got into action to go up there to determine who made the purchase. He was able to describe Aldrich as a short black man and described her. I was actually able to give us a description of the clothes that she was wearing.
Because the clerk had been so savvy and requested Vanessa's driver's license number, he also wrote down her address, which led detectives right to her mother's house.
This was a turning point in the case because they knew that Vanessa was involved in some way because she had Randy's credit card.
Less than 48 hours after the murder, the sheriff's department assembles a team to hightail it to the Claude residence to interview the unauthorized user of the victim's credit card. Inside, Vanessa, her mother, and Aldrich go about their day when they're confronted with the unexpected visitors.
Who is it? When the police knocked on the door, the first thing they heard was a male voice.
When police announce their presence, Vanessa answers the door, while Aldrich runs to hide.
She stood there and she dealt with the police.
But she denies knowing anything about a man's voice.
Yes, ma'am. Whose male voice did we hear? We need you to tell us the truth. Where
We know there's a male in the house, there's no question. They're obviously hiding him, so we need to get in the house to make sure he's not loading up and ready to take us out.
But Vanessa's devious efforts to keep police from finding Aldrich are quickly shot down by the woman of the house.
They eventually were able to gain entry because it was her mother's residence and she allowed the police to do a search.
And the hunt for their male person of interest doesn't last long. And later, Mary Ann Arnold is possessed by a jealous rage after hearing the father of her kids has his sights on another woman.
Are you messing with Al?
They planned on kidnapping Lois and just scare her.
Mary Ann would go to any lengths to keep her relationship together with Al.
After being tracked down for using a dead man's bank card, Vanessa Claude tries to shield her man from inquiring police officers.
There's no one else here.
Until her mother allows them to search the house.
Come in.
So the police went inside and they began to search around. They eventually opened the bathroom door and Aldrich was hiding in the shower.
Freeze!
Aldrich is arrested without incident, and his woman follows right behind him, as they're both taken into custody. But investigators' business inside the house isn't over.
In addition to the majority of the guns from the robbery of Randy Bett's house, we also located a check that belonged to Randy and the jacket that was purchased.
At the sheriff's office, Vanessa is placed under the hot lights alone. But she's not about to betray her man.
Her first instinct was to get a lawyer.
When someone has been loyal to someone for such a long time, it's not that easy for them to just turn on a dime or give up that person to the authorities.
Contrary to Vanessa's silence, in the next room, Aldrich is game to talk for hours. But after changing his version of the truth several times, he settles on his side of the story.
Aldrich admitted that he was there at the house, in the doorway, but that he'd kill him.
I ain't the one that pulled the trigger, man. Okay.
He insists there was another mysterious person present, named L, who made the deadly move, never giving up his friend, Ron Allen.
Then they went in the back or something. Then when they came back, he had the gun to his head. You know what I'm saying, the back of his head. And all I know is shots was fired.
But 2 weeks later, Ron Allen's luck comes full circle.
They found Ron Allen's brother who was driving a vehicle and he was pulled over and there were guns in the car. And the guns, he said, he gotten from his brother.
Unknown to him, one of the guns turns out to be the murder weapon. Police track down Ron Allen and arrest him. Both he and Aldrich are charged with theft, aggravated robbery, burglary, and first-degree murder. 2 years after her arrest, Vanessa pleads guilty of facilitation to first-degree murder and agrees to testify against her guy. But she still can't seem to cut the cord completely on her loyalty to Aldrich and maintains he wasn't the one who fired the gun.
As part of her plea, she had to give us a statement, and she, the entire time, tried to minimize Aldrich's position. He stayed in the car. He didn't get out.
Okay.
Up until the end, she protected him as long as she possibly could, and thereafter.
Nothing to do with this.
Aldrich Lillard has his day in court and is convicted of first-degree murder, aggravated robbery, aggravated burglary, and conspiracy to commit robbery and burglary. Ron Allen Hardy is convicted on the exact charges as his partner in crime. Both men are given life sentences without the possibility of parole. Vanessa Claude is sentenced to 20 years, with the possibility of parole after 6 years. As she embarks on her journey behind bars, there's plenty of past choices to reckon with while she comes to terms with how love landed her in the middle of 4 concrete walls.
Going to jail is certainly one of the toughest lessons one can learn about themselves.
This incident speaks volumes about Vanessa because she went through a lot to try to protect Aldrich. Unfortunately, she was putting all this energy toward the wrong kind of man.
Vanessa could have really stepped outside of herself and realized that even though what she wanted was love, it shouldn't have come at the expense of a lost life.
Vanessa Claude's willingness to trespass into her boyfriend's illicit world costs an innocent person their life. Next, in the outskirts of Chicago, Marianne Arnold's determination to keep the father of her children all to herself stirs up a deadly tide of emotion. Not long after finishing high school in Dalton, Illinois, Marianne Arnold meets her destiny when she crosses paths with 21-year-old Albert Covington.
Mary and Albert lived right around the corner from each other, even though they went to different nearby high schools.
Good, how are you?
Albert, nice to meet you.
Albert was attractive, he was clean cut, someone Marianne was very interested in meeting.
Pleasure meeting you.
Their strong mutual attraction keeps both of them coming back for more.
They became exclusive and really were only spending their time with each other.
Though they each still live with their parents, their relationship fast-tracks over the next year when the 19-year-old gets some surprising news.
Are you serious?
Then at that point, her relationship with Al really gets serious. And, you know, it changes from just the two of them into another life to take care of.
When a child is involved, it certainly will make that relationship much tighter. It does amplify the emotions in that relationship for better or for worse.
Marianne's parents show their support by financially securing an apartment just a few miles away in Phoenix once the baby is born. Despite the lack of sleep that comes with newborns, it doesn't seem to kill the mood for the young lovers.
Well, after the first child, Marianne and Al's family grew quickly. There were 2 more children who came along.
And with more mouths to feed, the couple finds less and less time for love.
What is this?
The dynamics of their relationship changed.
What is what? Why does my house look a mess?
A lot of the stresses of life, being a parent, weighed heavily on them.
Marianne gets a job and becomes the breadwinner.
Pick everything up.
It's no longer just about them and having fun. It's really about making money and taking care of the children. It's a lot of pressure.
But try as they might, 5 years in, Marianne's love isn't enough to keep Al by her side.
As the relationship went downhill, Al decided to take a break from the relationship and move out of the home and move in with his parents again.
What are you doing, Al?
When two people fall in love, especially at a very young age, as time goes by, certainly we see that they may begin to outgrow one another. They went into that relationship when they were kids, and now they are growing into adulthood.
Alone with the kids, the now 23-year-old doesn't take the separation well and looks forward to the potential of them eventually working through their issues.
She didn't see Al moving out as the end of their relationship.
She still cared for him, still believed they were dating, still believed they were together, had feelings for him.
When a relationship has a breakup or a separation, the person who didn't want the relationship to be over in the first place is really upset. But they become even more upset when there still does appear to be hope.
But unfortunately for Mary Ann, distance doesn't seem to make Al's heart grow fonder. A few months after living separate lives, the single mom gets wind of something through the grapevine that puts her over the edge. Al is dating Lois Thomas.
What are you sure?
Mary Ann heard through mutual family and friends that Al was moving on.
It's possible if Al starts dating someone else that she may never get him back.
The 20-year-old is an acquaintance of Mary Ann's, who works at the local daycare center, making the alleged affair especially hard to swallow.
Mary Ann saw Lois as a threat. Lois was a very beautiful young lady. She had a job, she was going to college, she had everything going for her.
Except getting on Mary Ann's bad side. The thought of losing Al for good cues the 23-year-old to mark her territory.
Mary Ann wanted to scare Lois so that she wouldn't want to have anything to do with Al anymore.
Mary Ann will not rest until she knows that he is only with her.
Conflict is rising in Phoenix, Illinois, after single mom Mary Ann Arnold gets wind that the father of her children is dating 20-year-old Lois Thomas.
Mary Ann confronts Al about his relationship with Lois, and Al tells her they're just friends.
What's this I hear about you and Lois?
Nothing. We just hung out.
But Mary Ann is not buying it. She's very jealous of Lois.
I want to know the truth.
She wanted to really look into the fact that Al was indeed with somebody else. She wanted to find out for herself what was going on.
Uncertain if her beloved Al is being honest, she dives deeper for the truth.
Are you messing with Al?
Mary Ann also confronts Lois about the relationship between her and Al. Lois also denies that relationship and said that they were just simply friends.
When a person is being lied to, especially if they feel that their significant other is cheating, well, not only do they become insulted, but more than anything else, they become rageful because they feel that they're being treated as a stupid person.
Mary Ann lets it lie for now, until her suspicions are as good as confirmed when a reliable source sheds some light on the lovers in question.
Well, I saw them holding hands.
A cousin of Mary Ann told her that Al had been seen at the movie theaters with Lois, and that set her off. She was pretty upset about that.
Jealousy, that green-eyed monster, can put people in a really dark place, but more than anything else, cause them to lose rational thought.
Mary Ann takes matters into her own hands and decides she'll confront Lois again, just to scare her into never seeing Al again. But she'll need reliable backup, and there's no better reinforcement than her close friend, 18-year-old Evelyn Jackson.
Evelyn kind of has a reputation as being tough, and she deals drugs, she owns a gun.
What's up? So what we gonna do? We gotta teach her a lesson. We gonna see her, we gonna rough her up.
She knew how to handle a situation if there was a problem. She was the person to go to.
Evelyn is game to scare Al's other woman if they can manage to run into her alone. A few days later, bright and early on a Monday morning, Mary Ann rises with the sun and heads to Evelyn's house.
Evelyn was not expecting company that morning. However, Mary Ann came in the house and said this is the perfect time to put our plan into action.
Get your gun, we gotta go. Let's go.
And they planned on kidnapping Lois and just drive around in their vehicle and just scare her into staying away from Al.
Armed with a handgun, the pair sets their scheme to keep Lois away from Al in motion. And because there's power in numbers, they pick up another friend along the way, 16-year-old Catherine Amos. After driving 7 miles to Calumet City, they pull up outside of Lois's house, where they wait. 20 minutes later, at 7 o'clock, their target appears.
So when Lois comes out to get in her car and leave to go to work, the 3 girls are there and they pounce.
Get out! Get out of the car!
They approach her at gunpoint, take her out of her vehicle, and bring her into the other vehicle.
Mary Ann takes off, while Lois is sandwiched between Catherine and Evelyn in the back seat.
The 3 of them start fighting while Mary Ann is driving the car, accusing Lois of taking Al away from her.
Lois grabs for the gun that Evelyn has, and that's when the gun accidentally goes off and shoots the driver's side window.
What the hell?
Marianne freaks out and she pulls over and decides that she's going to get in the back and take control.
While Evelyn drives, things get even messier in the back seat.
Marianne takes the weapon and strikes her in the head, causing her to bleed. At that point, Marianne decides that she needs to get to a secluded area where they can try and scare Lois even more.
Soon, the group arrives alongside a lonely section of the Calumet River.
So the girls pull up in the back of the docks and they force Lois to get out and start walking down along the river.
Mary Ann had a wooden cane with her that she brought out of the car.
Evelyn and Catherine stand nearby listening, while Mary Ann and Lois continue their verbal fight over Al. Mary Ann orders her captive to get into the knee-deep water, but she resists. Lois tries to escape, but doesn't get far. That's when Mary Ann expels her rage in full force.
Mary Ann was ruthlessly beating Lois with a cane. Evelyn and Catherine were standing nearby, basically frozen, unsure of what to do at this time.
Lois starts pleading for her life, and at some point she breaks away. She starts running. She knows that she has to get away from there, or she may die.
But Mary Ann is determined to have the last word, for the sake of the man she's not willing to let go.
She grabs a bag that has a knife, Christmas lights, a telephone cord, and a hammer.
Marianne just goes wild.
It was savage and shocking the way things went down.
Alongside the Little Calumet River in Illinois, Mary Ann Arnold chases the other woman in her man's life to teach her a lesson. While Catherine stays with the car, Mary Ann and Evelyn quickly catch up to Lois and open their bag of tricks.
Hold her down.
Marianne gives the Christmas lights to Evelyn and tells Evelyn to make a knot, which Evelyn does. At this point, Marianne just goes wild.
She takes the Christmas lights, ties it around Lois's neck, and starts to choke her.
Lois at this time is overpowered. She's scared. She's struggling. She is in fear for her life.
Then the plot takes a savage turn when Mary Ann pulls out the hammer.
At the very same time that Marianne is choking Lois, she's using the hammer to strike her about her head and her legs repeatedly.
Bloody and weak, Lois loses any fighting chance at surviving Mary Ann's wrath.
Marianne takes a large boulder and smashes her head with it.
We gotta move her.
The 2 women then dump the unconscious woman in the river to die. Then, the predators meet up with Catherine back in the car, as Lois's life sinks to its end.
It's a terrible tragedy that such a young life was lost. Lois was a great young lady and just an absolute travesty.
Nearly 3 hours later, Mary Ann and her crew keep their secret underwater.
At this point, Marianne was just really going on with her day-to-day lively routines, acting like nothing ever happened.
Meanwhile, Lois's co-workers are growing very concerned.
So that morning, Lois's daycare center was going on a field trip. At 9:45, her coworkers noticed Lois still hadn't arrived. And this is not like Lois at all. And her coworkers know that something is wrong, and so they call her house.
Her mother is shocked to find out her daughter isn't at work. Then she enters into a moment that will haunt her forever.
Her mom immediately went outside to look for Lois's car, which is when she found Lois not there and the car still running. And at that point, her mother contacted the police.
The unusual circumstance leads law enforcement to act quickly.
Came in as a missing persons case. We responded out to the scene and spoke to the family and got their initial statements from what they could tell us.
My daughter's car is still running, and I don't know where she is.
Is there anybody you can think of that would have a problem?
It's no secret in the Thomas household that Lois is at odds with one particular individual.
We learned Mary Ann and Lois were arguing because of Al.
That same day, police are able to locate the man at the center of it all.
What seems to be the problem, officers?
We spoke with Al, and he basically told us that him and Lois were just friends, but we believe that there was more of a relationship taking place there.
What can I do to help?
Surprised to hear of Lois's disappearance, Al doesn't like the news any more than her own family, but isn't able to fill in any of the holes. The uncertainty leads investigators to their next stop.
The police quickly locate Marianne and question her about Lois.
But she denies knowing anything about her disappearance.
She advised us that her and Lois were in fact good friends.
When's the last time you saw her?
But she hadn't seen her or spoke to her in a while. And that actually threw us off the path at that point.
When someone is really good at deception, really good at lying, it's a sure sign that this person is a master manipulator who knows how to convince people that what they're seeing is not really what they're seeing.
Marianne's convincing performance may have bought her some time, but she's not completely in the clear.
You have to keep everything open when you really have no idea who your suspects are. You rule anybody out until you positively can.
But Lois's grave won't remain hidden for long, as Marianne does her best to keep her man and get away with murder.
The stakes for Marianne are high.
She loved Al. She wanted him back in the family.
Calumet, Illinois faces the dead of winter, while Marianne Arnold tries to get away with murdering her man's potential other lover.
Marianne continues her life day to day as if nothing happened, continuing to raise her kids, continuing to do the things that she normally does.
2 days after leaving Lois for dead, their secret begins banging down the door when investigators get a...
We finally got a break in the case when we received an anonymous tip from an informant.
This is a small place, people talk, everybody knows everybody, and so eventually it kind of gets around that Marianne, Catherine, and Evelyn are kind of talking about having something to do with Lois's disappearance.
The alarming information leads law enforcement to bring all 3 ladies into the sheriff's department to interrogate them separately. 16-year-old Catherine Amos isn't prepared to lie about what she knows.
And she basically broke everything down to us and gave us the whole story.
They strangled her.
With multiple offenders, when one person confesses, it's usually a domino effect, and the others confess behind her.
Once Catherine tells the story and names Evelyn and Marianne as a part of the plot to kidnap Lois,
They beat her.
Evelyn also confesses.
But it went too far. We ended up killing her.
We gotta move her. Come on.
Then Marianne broke down.
She was trying to take him from me. We didn't want to hurt her.
The ringleader and her friends are all charged with first-degree murder and aggravated kidnapping. Immediately, a search team is dispatched to the last place Lois was seen.
Catherine actually led us down to the river and pointed out where we could look and possibly find Lois's body.
It takes 9 days, but the massive community efforts pay off when Lois's body is found on New Year's Eve.
And miraculously, her body was still preserved because the water was just so cold that it almost just looked like she was sleeping.
It was a very difficult day. The family was out at the river. We wanted to give them some closure.
After a 2-year dose behind bars, Marianne Arnold, Evelyn Jackson, and Catherine Amos plead guilty. Facing the death penalty, the woman who started it all takes the opportunity to speak her mind.
At sentencing, Marianne stood up and faced Lois's mother and said that she was sorry, she never meant for any of this to happen, and that she wished that she could forgive her.
Marianne Arnold is sentenced to 80 years in prison on 2 counts of first-degree murder and 15 years in prison for aggravated kidnapping, with no possibility of parole. Evelyn Jackson is sentenced to 45 years for first-degree murder and 30 years for aggravated kidnapping. Catherine Amos is sentenced to 20 years for first-degree murder and 15 years for aggravated kidnapping. Though justice is served in court, nothing can bring Lois Thomas back to her loved ones.
My heart went out to the family. This is a tragic case, as we have a family who doesn't have their mother because she's in prison, and a mother that doesn't have her daughter because she's dead.
It's a lonely road ahead for the woman who moves on with life behind bars, without her kids and without her man.
It's unfortunate that Marianne killed someone for her boyfriend who doesn't even love her anymore.
When a person engages in a highly charged emotional situation, and then later on, they calm down and come to terms over what they've done, well, that can actually send them into not just guilt, but emotional shock.
As a struggling single mother, Ohioan Sheila McFarland is looking for a man to make her family complete.
She was just really trying to cope and make it through the day-to-day.
But her world is left in shambles when true love becomes pure terror.
I think Eddie saw in Sheila someone that he could control.
Somebody is shooting here in
This is the man she loves, and it doesn't matter who he or she hurts along the way.
And in Smyrna, Georgia, motivated musical standout Renee Harris has always marched to the beat of her own drum.
She excelled in school. She had an amazing voice. She could have had anything she wanted.
But staying composed becomes a tall task when a bad boy forces her to sing for her supper.
Pretty ugly scene, a lot of blood.
Instead of her being fearful, she was ready to do whatever she could to help him out.
There are hundreds of thousands of women in prison at any given time in the U.S. These are the true stories of women who committed heinous crimes in the name of love. For my man. Barely scraping by in a modest Euclid, Ohio apartment, Sheila McFarland is at her wit's end.
She had 6 children that she had to care for, but it wasn't an easy road. She was really living a tough life.
Despite her best efforts, the 51-year-old single mother can't seem to keep order or hold down a steady man.
Sheila did have multiple relationships, in and out with the wrong guys. She just wasn't able to meet that Mr. Right.
If you end up striking out at love, that can really hurt your self-esteem. But even if you have a certain level of confidence, well, that can knock that down a couple of emotional pegs too.
But that all changes when she dates a kind and wonderful man who not only cherishes her, but her kids as well.
He was the love of her life, and then tragically he passed away, and after that she really wasn't the same.
To drown her sorrows, Sheila turns to the bottle. Unfortunately, things only get worse when her drinking manifests into drug use.
When someone is going through some very difficult times, it's easy to get stuck in a pattern of substance use or dependence. But all that is just a temporary Band-Aid that is covering up whatever the issue may be instead of getting to the more deeper, more complex solutions.
When she's sober, Sheila is a wholesome, caring mother. But when high or drunk, her personality does a 180.
Sheila would turn into a completely different person, and sometimes people were nervous to be around her.
No, you can't go outside. Leave me alone.
She had a temper, and she would get angry, and she would lash out verbally.
Not only does her volatile personality create drama at home, it also lands her in some hot water with the law, though she's never convicted.
Sheila got into all sorts of trouble. She started causing ruckus out in the streets, assaulting people, writing bad checks.
Despite her brushes with the law, the troubled soul has dodged any serious jail time and longs for a shoulder to lean on. Before long, she finds comfort from an unlikely source, Eddie Brownlee.
Eddie is in his late 40s. He's a mid-level drug dealer in Euclid.
His street name was Man. That's no coincidence. He envisioned himself as the man. Other people considered him the man, and he wanted to be a person of power.
Unlike the other pushers Sheila deals with, Eddie is older and can relate to the pitfalls of adulthood.
I think he knew a lot about the world and about the way things worked, and I think she understood him very well.
As time wears on, Eddie becomes more of a friend than a dealer.
I think that she saw somebody who was strong, who could provide her what she needed, and I think ultimately she wanted somebody in her life.
And if that so happens to be her drug dealer, why not? He's there, he's willing, he's open, he's ready.
Eddie's warm heart appears to be just what the doctor ordered, and it doesn't take long for their friendship to take a romantic turn.
They spent so much time together, talking, getting to know one another, and it was really just bound to happen.
At first, Sheila is reluctant to introduce Eddie to her children, given his livelihood. But after just 2 months together, he becomes a staple in her broken home.
In addition to supplying her habit, Eddie is coming over to her house. He's taking care of her kids. He has just really made a place in Sheila's life.
He is making sure that her bills are paid on time, and he's even bought her eldest daughter's prom dresses.
It's really easy to find comfort when our emotional and physical needs are being met, even if that person isn't right for us. The security tends to put our mind at ease.
Even though her life appears to be on the uptick, Sheila still abuses drugs and alcohol and feels Eddie is her meal ticket. So what better way to have her cake and eat it too than to join his thriving illegal business?
I don't think Sheila went into this thinking, hey, I want to be a drug dealer. I think she was abusing drugs, she was drinking, she had 6 kids at home to feed, and here was an option.
Sheila was a dependent personality. And Eddie is the sort of man that not only understands the dependent personality, but knows how to exploit it.
Delighted to have his woman on board, Eddie quickly gets her up to speed on the chain of command.
Eddie ran a network of drug dealers, from a foot soldier to more middle-ranged operatives who would handle the distribution of his product.
When Eddie does handle the legwork, Sheila usually goes with her man as he passes out the goods.
To the outside world, they're really just this average couple. But in Euclid, they're really becoming these big players in the drug game.
When we're caring for a loved one, it's just a tendency to do whatever it takes to take care of that individual or individuals. It's almost a primal behavior because in that person's mind, the means justify the ends.
In order to keep their illicit activities away from the children, the couple often rents rundown hotel rooms to peddle their wares. However, the volume they're distributing has caught the attention of the Euclid Police Department's narcotics unit, who has identified Eddie as the head honcho.
A reputation as significant as his wouldn't go without notice. And they began to focus their operations, centralizing on Eddie and his criminal organization.
After getting wind that he's in their crosshairs, he tells Sheila to lay low with the kids at her place for a bit, while he squirrels away at their various hideouts.
Eddie knows the police are onto him, and so he has all his guys out there doing his business.
Although he manages to elude detectives, one of his customers, Robert Williams, isn't so lucky.
Robert was a 64-year-old man. He had recently suffered a stroke, and he was a close affiliate of Eddie's.
After undercover officers make several control buys from unsuspecting Robert, police come knocking at his apartment door with an arrest warrant.
We have a warrant for your arrest.
He gets taken into custody. And this is a guy who just suffered a stroke. So Robert definitely isn't trying to go to jail.
At this point, Robert decides he's gonna be an informant for the cops.
He even offers the services of his fiancée, promising they'll help cops nab their real target.
Robert presented an opportunity to not only get closer to Eddie Brownlee, but his organization, his network, other operatives that dealt for him, and ultimately leading to his arrest.
When it comes to survival mode, many times desperation kicks in and we'll do whatever it is that we have to do, even if it means turning heel on those who got us there.
Little does the fledgling CI know, Eddie and his woman will stop at nothing to protect their reputation, and crossing them might cost him more than just his freedom.
They had no idea what they were signing up for.
Tonight,
something was wrong. I felt it in my core.
It was as if I can't have you, nobody else can.
a brand new season.
She's on the floor, bleeding out.
All new Fatal Attraction, tonight at 9 on TV One.
Brought to you by Nissan.
Behind every heartbeat is an electric power. It's a constant reminder that we're alive. So let's act like it. Go ahead, grip the wheel, and feel the thrill of everyday adventure. Push the limits, defy expectations, and show out like never before. That's why our electric vehicles have traveled over 5 billion miles. They're designed to be bold, daring, and different, because every drive should always be electrifying. This is the new Nissan.
Sam's anxious he won't be approved for that new credit card, so he's procrastinating. But that changes now, because Sam looked for Karma Confidence on Credit Karma to see personalized credit card offers with outstanding...
The couple knows they'll need pest control to avoid getting trapped by the police.
When you're in dire straits, it's easy to go into desperation mode, even if it's not in your nature. Protecting yourself and loved ones becomes the prime emotion and behavior.
On a chilly September afternoon, Robert meets with police to get strapped up.
We'll be right here.
We'll get to him before he gets to you.
He was wearing covert surveillance equipment so that they could monitor him as he conducted a controlled buy with Eddie.
So, per the police's plan, he contacts Eddie and they meet up at his apartment.
The whole time that Robert's doing his business while the cops are watching, Sheila's there watching too.
Despite having the whole thing on tape, investigators want as much evidence as they can against Eddie. So they decide to keep the sting going.
A few weeks later, they send Robert back out to do another deal.
So this time they meet Eddie outside of a strip mall. Everything goes perfectly, and he has no idea the police are watching.
They had confidence in Robert, and they believed that he was sincere when he came and transacted with them. If they had known, it would have been a very different scenario.
Finally, 2 more weeks later, a mic'd Robert, along with his girlfriend, again ring the dealer to score some cocaine. However, on this occasion, Eddie claims he's busy cooking, but will send Sheila to complete the transaction at his secondary apartment.
Of course, this is her man. She's willing to help him out. And she's willing to meet the couple and give them what they came for.
The deal goes off without a hitch. That is, until later that afternoon.
Following that final transaction, the narcotics detectives moved against Eddie. As he was leaving the property with Sheila in their truck, the Euclid detectives stopped that vehicle and arrested both of them.
At the station, Eddie is charged with various narcotics violations and sent to jail. Sheila gets off easy, since police are only after her man.
Sheila was released and allowed to go about her business. She was despondent and upset that Eddie had been charged.
When the right person comes along, or at least what we think may be the right person in our own minds, it's easy to look past their faults or even blatantly illegal activities or actions.
To keep the business afloat while her man is locked up, Sheila contacts Ryan "Chop" Motley, a close associate of Eddie's.
Ryan was a very young man. He was 20 years old. He was very impressionable.
Eddie is almost like a mentor to him. He wants to be just like him, if not better.
Chop tells Sheila not to worry. He'll look after things while Eddie is in the clink.
This is his opportunity to step up. So he's ready to take care of Sheila, do anything he can for her, no matter what that is.
Chop is loyal. He goes to all their places, the stash houses, the apartments, the hotels, clears out all the drugs so that the police wouldn't find it.
While locked up awaiting trial, Eddie stays in constant contact with his protege, instructing him on how to run the business in his absence, but mainly to keep an eye on his woman.
Chop was tasked with babysitting Sheila, and that was actually a difficult task because Sheila liked to drink, Sheila liked to go out, and Sheila did use cocaine.
He wants to make sure that she doesn't spiral out of control and that she doesn't fall back into that deep depression.
But that's not the only reason the felon's been phoning home.
We both know who did this.
At this point, Eddie knows that somebody had to be working with the police. So he and Sheila have some conversations about who they think it is, and they believe it was Robert.
Eddie tells Sheila that something needs to happen. This can't go on. They have to get their revenge.
It's a wrap for that dude.
Sheila understood what he was recommending. And at this point, Sheila would have supported Eddie's cause no matter what he asked.
After selling enough product to raise bail money, Sheila springs her boyfriend, and the twosome begins to plot their strategy to rough up Robert with their loyal sidekick, Ryan "Chop" Motley.
Ryan, in turn, needed somebody he could trust, so he turned to his 24-year-old brother, Raymond, to help him with his task.
Ryan and Raymond agree to do this because they know they're about to get paid.
On the morning of November 13th, the armed assailants drive over to Robert's complex at Eddie and Sheila's behest.
They entered the apartment building and they waited on the second floor stairway landing, watching Robert's door. They knew that he was going to exit and take a walk. It was part of his daily routine.
While they're waiting, Raymond decided to put tape over the peepholes so that less people could see what was going on.
At 10:30, Robert appears like clockwork.
He had no idea what was waiting for him in that hallway.
You're Robert!
No sooner than he had gone 2 steps, Ryan and Raymond immediately aggressed into the hallway, flanking him.
Somebody is shooting here in your building.
And later, in Smyrna, Georgia, Renee Harris is driven to the brink by the man she loves, only to have her life crash and burn.
Renee fell hard and she fell fast for a quandary.
She was ready to do anything for him.
Thanks for bringing me with you guys today, man.
And her boyfriend, Eddie, have hired 2 goons to rough up Robert Williams, a confidential informant who ratted them out to police. And when the target steps foot outside his Euclid, Ohio apartment, the assailants are waiting to exact their revenge.
You're Robert!
Robert stopped and turned around because he heard someone calling for him.
Without hesitation, Chop points his gun at Robert and opens fire.
Ryan shot him 1 time in the chest, and that's all it took.
Robert falls immediately in the hallway, and the 2 men flee out the stairway.
Hearing the gunshot from inside their apartment, Robert's fiancée yells for him through the front door.
She hears Robert screaming, and she calls 911 immediately. But she's too afraid to go out there.
Somebody is shooting here in your building.
There's a shooting in the hallway. They could have gone into one of those second-floor apartments. They could have been standing right in the stairway.
Police and paramedics arrive within minutes and quickly clear the scene. But it's too late for Robert, who's pronounced dead on arrival.
Even if we feel like we're doing the right thing, it doesn't mean that we're doing the safest thing. And whatever that behavior or decision happens to be can impact the rest of our lives as we know it.
Desperate for answers, police show his grieving fiancée surveillance video taken from outside the apartment. And she provides police with a solid lead.
When she was presented with those images, she immediately said, "That's Chop."
But she also knows Chop works for Eddie. She knows he had something to do with this.
Unfortunately, police don't have enough evidence to make that link just yet. Meanwhile, Chop and Raymond meet up with the couple who hired them to collect their bounty.
And they tell them, look, the job is done. We need to be paid.
And that's when they got their reward, $4,000 in cocaine.
With Robert out of the picture, Sheila and her man are back in business.
If anything, I believe this hardened her resolve to stay with Eddie and to remain by his side, no matter what happened.
However, later that day, the couple is again picked up on drug trafficking charges while carrying out a deal.
Once they were in custody, Eddie and Sheila were separated, and I had an opportunity to interview both of them in reference to the homicide investigation.
However, both deny having any involvement in the brutal attack.
Sheila was withdrawn, she was sullen, she was very tight-lipped. Eddie had a very casual, indifferent attitude throughout the interview. He was completely unconcerned.
The couple continues to stick together. They created this bond and this love, and they weren't gonna let that go now.
Though by this time, police have copies of Eddie's jailhouse calls, threatening to take out Robert. But when they play them for the suspected mastermind,
All right, I'm gonna get these mothers. Tell Chop we gonna handle this.
he quickly brushes it off.
He acted as if it was insignificant. He tried to make it seem as if it was just angry talk and that it meant nothing.
Love has a way of really blinding us to what the cold, hard facts or the truth may be about a relationship. And even when we realize what's going on and it's in our face, we may even just choose not to believe it at all.
Police are certain Eddie's words were more than empty threats, and they immediately charge him, as well as his woman, with a host of crimes, including conspiracy to commit aggravated murder. 2 days later, Chop turns himself in after learning about the outstanding warrant against him. Though the same can't be said for his brother, Raymond.
It took until February the following year to locate him and bring him under custody.
In exchange for testimony against Eddie and Sheila, Chop is found guilty of murder and conspiracy to commit aggravated murder and is given 18 years to life. His brother Raymond pleads guilty to lesser charges, including involuntary manslaughter, and is sentenced to 15 years behind bars.
Sheila and Eddie believed that they were gonna get off, and they decided to go to trial.
However, it doesn't take the respective juries long to find them guilty on a host of charges, including aggravated murder and conspiracy to commit aggravated murder.
Their determination to defeat the charges at trial and their devotion to each other won them life sentences without parole.
Behind bars, Sheila continues to swear she got wrapped up in love, but nothing else.
How does this work? I mean,
Sheila lost everything. She lost her kids, she lost her family, she lost her freedom, and it was all for Eddie.
There were decisions she could have made as an individual that would have utterly changed the outcome for her, and yet she ignored them. And why? It can only be in preference to Eddie's opinions and in Eddie's wishes.
You're wrong. In times of tragedy, quite often our hope and security are shattered, and we find ourselves clinging to the ones we love, even if they are responsible for the really bad situation that we're in the first place.
Sheila's of rehabbing her life took a tragic detour when she followed her love into dangerous territory. And in Smyrna, Georgia, musical standout Renee Harris learns that just because a man makes your heart sing doesn't mean you'll live in harmony. Growing up with a loving, close-knit family on the outskirts of Atlanta, Renee Harris is truly blessed.
She was an amazing young lady, very smart, very gifted when it came to music. And she could play several instruments, so she was very talented as well.
But it's her most cherished gift that Renee can't help but share with anyone who will listen.
She had an amazing voice. Most people called it angelic. And she would actually make people cry when she sings.
Although the 17-year-old marches on the straight and narrow, she works hard to break the band nerd stigma amongst her peers.
I think she pretty much got along with everyone, didn't want to feel like the geeky person who was smart and played instruments.
However, her quest for popularity often lands her in the presence of men she knows could derail her promising future.
Renee's weakness was bad boys. Her family was aware and they never really approved of that, but it was something she did anyway.
Following graduation, Renee continues to live at home and enrolls in a community college where she gets some life-altering news.
She'd been accepted to Berkeley with a scholarship. She was going to get free money to attend school with one of the best music programs in the country. So her life was changing for the better.
When we compare the non-musical brain to the musical brain, we find that the musical brain is able to encode information, retrieve information, and that could certainly be an advantage later in life.
But when she meets a man who hits all the right notes, the prodigy starts to sing a very different tune.
Whoever's flashing the most cash, that's who they were going to find.
Whatever he wanted, she would have done for him.
Life in East Point, Georgia. The gifted musician has just received a scholarship to Berkeley and couldn't be happier to start the spring semester.
It looked like she was really headed for a life of just great achievement, and there's literally no telling what she could have accomplished.
When you get accepted to a prestigious university and you get a full ride, a full scholarship, well, that certainly has to be an ego boost because that is validation that your hard work and efforts have paid off in spades.
But before she ships off, the now 24-year-old has to say so long to her hometown pals. And while attending a going-away party, she meets Quandre Bentley, a friend of a friend.
Quandre was the bad boy that she typically tended to fall for.
He had what is known as street cred, so she was really attracted to that.
After getting to know each other, Renee learns the 25-year-old lives in Jonesboro, about 15 miles south, and has always been the problem child of his family.
Quandre had a criminal history, and he had one prior prison sentence, and that was somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 years.
It's definitely not the type of person someone's parents want you to be involved with. No future, no nothing. He was on the fast track to nowhere.
Good thing he's just Renee's type, and his troubles with the law don't stop her from falling head over heels.
Things were about to be wonderful for her, but then she halted everything to spend time with this new love of her life.
Quite often we find that women are attracted to the bad boy type. And why? Because it's something different than what they've had, and it just kind of raises that pitter-patter in our hearts and in the steps of love.
As the weeks pass, the new couple becomes attached at the hip, despite living separately.
In less than a month, she was telling people he's the love of her life, that's her man.
However, since he doesn't get a steady paycheck, the young adult has concerns about how her man makes ends meet on his own.
Renee really didn't know how he earned his money, how he was eating, how he was doing things.
But she finds out on a temperate October afternoon when Quandre calls to say he wants to score some fast cash and needs her help.
It was his plan to have her pick him up and take him to a place called Dots, which is a local restaurant here in the Atlanta area, and they were going to rob someone.
I think that she was reluctant to get involved, did not want to get enmeshed in that type of scenario, realizing the seriousness of it.
But love can be blind, and despite her misgivings, she agrees to tag along.
If you notice, Cupid is always wearing a blindfold and ready to shoot that arrow randomly. It's almost the same feeling when you get involved with someone in an unexpected manner, that you're just going for the excitement, no matter how random or crazy it may be.
With his woman on board, Quandre also enlists his 46-year-old friend and convicted felon, Isidore Barboza.
He had a lengthy criminal history, including aggravated assaults, weapons charges, primarily in other states other than Georgia.
Renee does as she's asked, and after picking up her man and his pal, they set off for docks.
During the ride over there, the trio discussed who was going to be their victim. They were going to essentially find an easy target.
I said, we go in there.
They were looking for the showman, the person who's out flashing his cash, flashing his jewelry, letting folks know that, you know what, I'm a big baller.
After arriving at the pub, the group proceeds to scope out their surroundings. And around midnight, they identify their mark.
They spotted 32-year-old Xavier Brooks, who was basically flashing a lot of money, just spreading it out on the pool table.
Immediately, the trio races to brainstorm logistics, but not before Renee makes a pit stop.
At this moment, Renee has to go to the bathroom. So they're calling her to tell her they're ready to move.
But when the men notice Xavier paying his tab and heading for the door with his date, 32-year-old Ebony Driscoll, they know it's go time, with or without Renee.
As he and Ebony exited docks, Quandre and Isadora exited as well. They get out to the parking lot. Ebony and Xavier approach their vehicle.
But before the woman can open her driver's side door, one of the assailants springs into action, using a gun he brought without his girlfriend's knowledge.
Quandre approached Ebony and essentially said, hey, this is a stick-up.
He told her, give me your money, and don't scream, don't do anything. Just give me your purse.
Nice and easy, playboy.
Meanwhile, Isadore appears at the passenger side door and immediately presses a .380 caliber handgun against Xavier's temple.
He says, don't move or things are going to get ugly.
Little do the men know, Ebony is a fighter by nature and will protect herself and her date at any cost.
Ebony was a no-nonsense woman. She's not letting anyone stick her up.
Instead of going for money, Ebony actually reached in her purse and retrieved her handgun.
Although she's not a part of the action, Renee is about to find out her man has bitten off more than he can chew.
I'm sure that he had no idea what was coming.
Smyrna, Georgia sports bar. Her cohorts, Quandre Bentley and Isadore Barboza, are holding up Ebony Driscoll and her date, Xavier Brooks, in the parking lot.
Xavier was there with Miss Driscoll to enjoy the evening and have a good time. So once that was observed by Quandre and Isadore, one mark became two marks.
But when Ebony pulls a pistol from her purse, Quandre knows his sadistic script is about to be flipped.
Ebony took aim at Quandre and shot him in the neck.
Instantly, the assailant crumples to the ground as Isadore and Xavier look on in horror.
At that point, Isadore began firing. He shot Ebony twice, once in the leg and once in the abdomen.
After Xavier heard the shot, he attempted to wrestle the gun from Isadore.
By the time all of the tussling is going on, folks start leaving docks, and they see what's going on. But Renee was nowhere around. She was in the bathroom. She didn't see anything.
Realizing he's no match for the stronger Isadore, Xavier relinquishes the gun and makes a break for the eatery.
Xavier runs back inside Doc's restaurant and says, call 911, we're being robbed.
As the frantic scene continues, Renee finally emerges from the restroom. But when she makes her way to the parking lot, she's shocked to see Ebony lying on the pavement, and her accomplices are nowhere to be found.
It must be traumatizing when the pieces start coming together, because the robbery that you planned so well now begins to fall apart, and you're part of it?
As Renee leaves the scene in her vehicle and frantically texts her boyfriend, Xavier bravely heads back outside to help his date, who's clinging to life on the macadam.
He noticed a lot of blood around Ebony's midsection. He attempted to stand her up. She walked about 10 feet before collapsing.
Xavier begins, along with other people, providing CPR to Ebony as she's on the parking lot of docks.
But he also realized that his assailants, the people who had gone after them, they were gone, and so was Ebony's car.
Little does he know, Isadore is driving it away from the scene, with his wounded buddy in tow.
It wasn't supposed to go down like that.
Quandre was shot in the neck, so I'm sure he was bleeding profusely.
At that point, Isadore realized he needed to get his friend some help.
Get into the hospital.
As the drive continues, Isadore takes another look at all the blood Quandre's lost and decides to save himself instead.
He took off down Cumberland Boulevard, made a left on Spring Road, and there's a golf warehouse there. He stopped his car right there in front of the store.
His partner in crime was shot and dying, so I think he knew what his future held. So he basically left Quandre there.
It takes a real lack of guilt or remorse to rob and shoot someone and then abandon your best friend in a life and death situation. That's just inexplicable.
But before he flees the scene, Isidore swipes his buddy's phone, hoping his best friend's girl can help get him out of the woods.
He looked for Renee's number, dialed it, trying to get her to pick him up.
Renee agreed because she was looking for Quandre. She thought Quandre was with Isadora at that time.
Though when she arrives, her man is nowhere to be found.
Where's Quandre?
She says, "Where is he?" Isadora told Renee that Quandre said to leave him. She does not want to do that, but he had a gun. She was scared. She ultimately left with only Isadora in the vehicle.
When we're in a stressful situation, sometimes common sense goes right out the window, even if it means life or death. And we have to live with our choices, no matter how grim.
Rattled by the incident, Renee composes herself enough to drive Isidore back to his apartment before returning to her mom's to hide out.
I don't think she realized to the level or extent of what may have happened to Quandre, but obviously she realized that something was not the way it should be.
Meanwhile, police and paramedics have arrived at docks and are working feverishly to revive Ebony.
They began rendering first aid. Shortly thereafter, she was transported to a local hospital, but she was pronounced deceased there.
Hoping for answers, detectives begin to process the crime scene. But it's what they find inside that provides their first solid lead.
There were so many eyewitnesses who were coming out of the bar, saw what happened, could give them a description of the suspects.
And that's not all.
The manager was able to provide video surveillance of the parking lot to give police an idea of what really happened.
Unfortunately, no one knows just who the assailants are. So detectives put out a bolo on Ebony's car and pray it turns up soon, though they don't have to wait long.
Following morning, they find a vehicle that matches the description of Ebony's at that area that Renee had picked Isadora up.
But when officers approach the vehicle, they're shocked to find a man's body slumped over in the passenger seat. ID in the victim's wallet proves it's Quandre Bentley, and it's clear his death was no accident.
He has a single gunshot wound to the neck area. Pretty ugly scene, a lot of blood.
At that point, they realized they had a double murder investigation going on.
But when police discover a working cell phone in Quandre's pocket, they quickly dial up a suspect and a motive for the brutal attacks.
They see a number that occurred frequently. They began tracing that back, and they learned that that cell number was in fact the phone of Renee Harris.
Will she defend her man to the bitter end or throw him to the wolves? Appear to be mysteriously connected. And when they search through one of the victim's cell phones, Quandre Bentley's, they have a sneaking suspicion his girlfriend Renee might have been involved.
They certainly thought it was a person of interest based on the number of phone calls that had been into Quandre's phone from Renee.
To find out what his girlfriend knows, detectives pay a visit to her house, a half-hour away in East Point.
When she opened the door, Renee was not surprised that investigators were there. She essentially let them in the residence and started talking to investigators at that time.
They ask her who Quandre is, what she knows about him. She admits she knows him. That's her boyfriend. They're intimate.
Which is why the news of his demise hits her like a ton of bricks.
We found Quandre deceased.
She had no idea all these hours, where he was, what had happened, but they confirmed the thing she probably most did not want to learn.
Even if someone dies doing something illegal, it doesn't change the way that we feel about them. We still feel the grieving, we still cry, we just still love them no matter what it is that happened.
And honestly, they were planning to rob someone.
To honor the memory of her man and place the blame on Isidore, Renee readily admits the trio was at docks on the night in question and even explains why they were there.
She told police that Isadora and Quandre had discussed committing a robbery.
Renee said she had no involvement in the robbery. She says she's in the bathroom. She comes out. Quandre and Isadora are already gone, and she leaves to find them.
But when the rambling suspect willingly offers that she got a call after she left from Isidore, a man she just met that night, investigators are certain she was an accomplice to the cover-up.
This is the first night you met him?
They wanted to know, why would Isadora be calling her? Why wasn't her boyfriend calling her?
Renee's response was that Quandre always gave out her number to his friends. But that didn't really make sense to detectives.
I'd like for you to come with me down to the station and make it.
To get her story on the books, detectives bring her downtown to make an official statement. And this time, the musical savant sings like a canary.
She began to give a more detailed statement, up to and including her involvement of transporting Isadora away from that scene, him having a gun, and the fact that Quandre was not there when she went to pick him up.
She realized she was in a lot of trouble, and she needed to be honest and fess up to what happened.
With her testimony on file, police have enough to charge Renee with malice murder stemming from Ebony's death, as well as the felony murder of her boyfriend, Quandre.
Doesn't mean that she pulled the trigger, doesn't mean that she took anything from them, but it does mean that she was involved in it. The law in this state allows law enforcement to charge everybody involved just as if they had actually committed the crime themselves.
When a person that we love puts us in a bad situation and we say no to them, they see that as a betrayal. But if we go along with it, then it's a betrayal to ourselves. So if you can't find the strength to say no, then that may leave you in your own personal hell.
Despite Renee's arrest, police have been unable to locate Isidore, the only other living suspect. But 10 days later, while acting on a tip, detectives track him down at an unexpected location.
He's actually about 200 miles away in Augusta at his sister's house when they find him.
When Isadora was arrested, he immediately asked for an attorney and didn't give any information to investigators.
But police have all the evidence they need to charge him with malice murder, felony murder, aggravated assault, armed robbery, and possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony.
At this point, Renee decides to testify against him and save herself.
We put her on the stand. She was a witness, and she told the jury what happened.
After a week-long trial, Isidore Barboza is found guilty of felony murder, armed robbery, aggravated assault, and possession of a firearm in the commission of a crime. In exchange for her testimony, Renee pleads guilty to armed robbery and is handed a 15-year sentence, 5 behind bars and the remaining 10 on probation.
Considering the circumstances of what she was facing, she came out with a very favorable sentence to her.
Behind bars, Renee expresses incredible remorse for letting Quandre steer her down a dark path.
She had her whole life in front of her. She had an opportunity to go out and do great things, but she